What if I told you that on a silent morning in 202 BC, the fate of two empires rested on the shoulders of just two men? That one had haunted Rome like a phantom for over a decade, and the other was a rising star, young, untested, but determined to end the nightmare. This isn't just a battle story. It's a mind game, a clash of titans, a moment where history could have gone either way. One victory would shape the Mediterranean for centuries. One mistake would doom an empire. This is the Battle of Zama, and what happened here changed the world forever. For over 15 years, the name Hannibal struck terror into the Roman heart. He wasn't just a general. He was a storm in human form, crossing the Alps with war elephants, defeating Roman legions on their own soil. Cannae, Trasimene, Trebia. He had humiliated Rome again and again. But despite all his victories, Hannibal couldn't break Rome completely. He needed reinforcements. He needed support from Carthage. And they hesitated. So, far from home, Hannibal waited, and the war dragged on. While Hannibal raged in Italy, across the sea in Rome, a new name began to echo in the Senate halls: Publius Cornelius Scipio. Young, brilliant, ambitious. He had no official title, but Rome was desperate. So Scipio stepped forward and asked for just one thing: "Give me the command, and I'll take the war to Carthage." Rome was hesitant. He was only in his 20s, but they had little choice. Scipio sailed to Spain first, and there he did the impossible: defeated the Carthaginians, won alliances, and earned respect. Now, with momentum on his side, he set his sights on Carthage itself. As Scipio closed in on Carthage, the alarm bells rang across the African coast. The Senate of Carthage had only one choice. They called back their long-absent son, Hannibal Barca. For the first time in years, Hannibal returned to his homeland. His soldiers, scarred veterans from decades of war, followed him. But time had changed things. His army was no longer the sharp blade it once was. Some were new, many were old, all were tired. And Scipio, he wasn't the young upstart anymore. He was now a war-hardened strategist with Numidian cavalry, Africa's most feared horsemen, riding at his side. Before the bloodshed, there was a meeting. Two of history's greatest minds, face to face. Hannibal spoke first, calm, composed, a warrior's dignity. "Let's not waste blood," he said. "We can end this without a massacre." Scipio listened, nodding, but his reply was clear: "I came for peace, through victory." No deal was struck. The stage was set. Morning. The plains near a small town called Zama. The sun rose over a sea of metal, muscle, and tension. Hannibal's army stretched across the fields. 80 war elephants at the front, mercenaries from Gaul and Spain behind them, and deep in reserve, his elite veterans, the ghosts of Cannae. Scipio's legion stood ready in perfect formation. Their shields gleamed. Their lines were tight. On the wings, Numidian cavalry, led by the fierce Massinissa. The silence was crushing. And then, Hannibal gave the signal. The ground trembled. Dust clouds rose. 80 elephants thundered toward the Roman line. Their massive feet pounded the earth like drums of death. But Scipio had prepared. At the last moment, his men opened lanes. The elephants barreled forward, only to find gaps instead of targets. Roman soldiers blew horns and hurled javelins. Panicked and confused, the beasts turned back. Some even trampled their own men. The terror had failed. Now came the men. The mercenaries, wild warriors from Gaul and Spain, charged into Rome's first line. It was chaos. Shields slammed, swords flashed, screams filled the air. But Scipio's legions held their ground. They pushed forward inch by inch. Behind the mercenaries stood Carthaginian citizens, the second line, who refused to let the front retreat. Panic spread. Trapped between two walls of steel, the mercenaries were crushed. Hannibal had sacrificed them to wear the Romans down. Scipio halted his men. He reformed his lines, let them breathe, reorganize. He knew the final challenge was yet to come, because still waiting silent, still, disciplined, were Hannibal's veterans. These were the same soldiers who had annihilated Rome at Cannae, and now they stood shoulder to shoulder one last time. Scipio gave the order, "Advance!" The Roman legion surged forward. No tricks, no elephants, just man versus man, veteran versus veteran. The clash was brutal. It wasn't a battle anymore. It was a brawl. Sweat, blood, roars. No room to swing. Just stabbing, blocking, surviving. Both sides knew this was the final stand. And then, from the horizon, came thunder. The ground shook again, but this time, it wasn't elephants. It was Massinissa. The Numidian cavalry, once feared allies of Carthage, had switched sides. They now rode for Rome. They slammed into Hannibal's rear, slicing through unprotected ranks. The trap had closed. The battle had turned. Hannibal's lines crumbled, surrounded, overwhelmed, betrayed. Still, he fought, sword in hand, not as a general, but as a soldier. But it was over. By nightfall, over 20,000 Carthaginians lay dead. The dust settled, and Scipio stood tall. Rome had won the Second Punic War. Scipio would be forever known as Scipio Africanus, the man who conquered Africa. Carthage was forced to surrender, disarm, pay tribute, burn its fleet. The balance of power had shifted. Rome now ruled the Western Mediterranean. Hannibal escaped the battlefield with his life, but his dreams died at Zama. He would live the rest of his life in exile, hunted, betrayed, always looking over his shoulder. And every night, he would remember the sound of hooves, the dust rising, the trap closing. Zama wasn't just the end of a war, it was the end of an age. Rome proved it could survive even the greatest threat in its history. And from Zama, it began its long path to empire. And Hannibal, he remains one of the greatest generals who ever lived, because even in defeat, his genius shined. 2 men, 2 minds, 1 battlefield. Zama wasn't just about swords and strategy. It was about vision, patience, and sacrifice. And it reminds us that sometimes victory doesn't go to the strongest. It goes to the one who understands the storm and survives it.